It's pretty safe to say that Alabama and Georgia will once again be the class of the SEC in 2022. But a better discussion is who will be the third best team in the league. Some will say A&M. Others will say Tennessee and Kentucky. But I'm going to go with the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, where there are some question marks at wide receiver and the interior of the defensive line, they return a top-shelf quarterback in KJ Jefferson, both coordinators, and have leadership all over the place with guys like Bumper Poole and Jordan Catalon coming back. Add in the fact that Sam Pittman might be the best head coaching fit in college football, mixed with a culture that not only believes it can win, but now expects to, and you have a team that can be more dangerous than Alec Baldwin on a movie set. The schedule is daunting, but that's how it goes in the SEC. Arkansas has done nothing but overachieve since Pittman got there, and the level of physicality they play with can keep them in every big game. Kendall Briles continues to grow and evolve the playbook as an OC each year, and Barry Odom's done more with less than Will Smith in The Pursuit of Happiness. Their fan base is ready, the players are hungry, and Arkansas seems poised to take a big step. They also haven't suffered any major injuries in key spots throughout camp, and we're getting to the point where the game plan goes in and the dog days are almost over. They have a great test out of the gate with Cincinnati at home, so we'll know early. But I'm feeling a 10-2 season. Just remember, you heard it here first. I'm going to bring in David Cohn, my co-host. Flaming Dragon on Friday.
Days.
The best day.
The best day.
Was the best day.
Hopped off the bed.
David,
fast.
I want to know, who is your third best team in the SEC? And if it's not Arkansas, why are you wrong?
I love Arkansas, but man, I'm looking at Texas A&M. At some
You're
point,
believing
they have,
in it.
At
You
some
believe it.
point, they have to break through, right? Or is this just one of those situations where I always hear Texas haters say, Texas always thinks they're back and they never are? Is this one, like, I keep believing in some of these programs. I mean, at some point, if you stack these recruiting classes on top of each other, the way that Jimbo Fisher has, and you bring in a very competent quarterback, an efficient quarterback in Max Johnson, I'm looking at that Texas A&M game. It's a neutral site game, I believe. And Arkansas beat Texas A&M last year. That's going to mean something to the Aggies. I'm looking at that game, but I think you hit a lot of good things. You have them 10-2, right?
10-2.
10-2. Let's start with the good things. Just like you said, you return a veteran quarterback. You return both coordinators to go with a top-tier coach in Sam Pittman, and there's no Georgia on the schedule this year.
True.
That's really what started that slide last year, that 3-game losing slide that included Auburn. No Georgia on the schedule this year. I think they go, I'll pull up the schedule in a minute, actually. So I can see Arkansas going 10-2 on paper, right? 10-2 on paper. But there's that 3-game stretch there where you're at Mississippi State, at BYU, and at Auburn, all 3 after the Alabama game. You really think they get through that unscathed?
Again, it's always a battle of attrition. When I look at the depth, it does scare me a little bit on defense. You look at that wide receiver room, you get Hazelwood as the transfer. The Satanya kid is from Fayetteville, I believe, is the speedster. They're going to rely on him, even though he's a young guy. Thompson, Knox at tight end's a guy I know they're really, really high on. I'm just big on KJ Jefferson having that rapport and that chemistry with Kendall Briles, who I think is an absolute up-and-coming star in the game. He's a guy that understands you have to be malleable while you're moving on. You can't just throw the same pitch every time. I think he has a ton of trust in KJ Jefferson. You look on the defensive line, I know they got Dominic in, the transfer from Georgia Tech, Hampton, the kid from Arkansas State, who I'm pretty high on. If the interior of the defensive line can hold up and they just don't get barraged by injuries, I think the leadership of Bumper Poole, getting Catalon back, a guy that missed 6 games, including that big stretch you were talking about. With A&M, I know we're high on Max Johnson, but I keep hearing Haynes King's going to be the guy. Would you say the same thing if Haynes King was the quarterback?
My opinion on their quarterback battle is, because I don't know that much about Haynes King. I just know.
Well, we haven't seen that much, David.
So my thing is, if Haynes King is the starting quarterback, I'm not going to come out here saying, oh, I can't believe he beat out Max Johnson. My opinion is going to be, well, Jimbo Fisher knows quarterbacks. Yeah. If this kid in camp has beaten out Max Johnson, then I think they're starting a heck of a quarterback, because I know what the floor is with Max Johnson, right? So if they think that Haynes King can go and be above that and has a higher ceiling, then look, we're going to have to see it, right? Yeah. We're going to have to see it. But let me just go through this schedule real quick, because I want to see what you and Blaine have. Because 10-2 on paper, that's awesome.
I can tell you right now, I got to lose to Alabama and Auburn.
But the SEC West never goes how it goes on paper.
That's true.
Right? All right, here we go. Like you said, Cincinnati.
Win.
All right, South Carolina home.
Win.
Missouri State home.
Win.
Yep. Texas A&M neutral site.
I got them winning that game.
Blaine? L? Okay. Alabama home.
Loss.
Then, like I said, you go to Mississippi State.
That's a win.
To BYU.
Win.
To Auburn.
Loss.
All right. You have them losing to Auburn as well? Liberty home.
Win.
LSU home.
Win.
Ole Miss home,
Win.
and then you close at Missouri.
Win. I see. Look, I think the floor maybe 9. And again, you have to say
That's a good floor, though.
That's a great floor. But again, and this isn't one of those things, oh, well, I'm going to say this to appease the fan base. I've been saying this since the end of last year. I know the schedule's tough. Liberty's no joke either. I know Malik Willis is gone, but Coach Freeze has done a really good job over there. I just think this Arkansas team, and you can say what you want about the fan base, but this Arkansas team is so together. They've grown together. They've gotten a little bit of a taste of success after the absolute, 5-alarm fire that Chad Morris left Arkansas with. Yeah. I think they're confident. I think they believe, and I think they're older. You got St. John at tackle, Stromberg in the middle. You're good enough on the offensive line. I'm not going to worry about Sam Pittman or the offensive line with Sam Pittman as the head coach. So they're my third team. Blaine, who do you got?
Well, this has always been the question. Go back to SEC Media Days. Who's the third best team in the SEC? And I don't think either of you realistically can be wrong, but I've been bullish on Tennessee this whole time.
You have.
I think a lot of it has to come down with the quarterback play. Hendon Hooker, I think, is probably the third or fourth best quarterback in the nation right now. And you got to think he just walked in that system and didn't even start the first game.
Yeah.
You bring back a receiver. You lose Vilas Jones Jr., who's a phenomenal player, but you bring back Cedric Tillman, 1,000-yard receiver. He's going to be a big part of it. You bring 4 starters back on the offensive line. I think that offense is going to take huge strides. The defense can only go up from here. You lost some of the transfer portal, but you got some of the transfer portal. And right now, their defense just needs identity to know who they are. Either you're going to be the team that gives up a bunch of yards, or give up third down. You have to win third down, especially in the red zone. You have to be a team that gives up 3 points, bend but don't break kind of defense. With Tennessee, can almost get you over the hump to where you need to be. With that offense, with that system, you're going to put up points. There's no question.
You're going to give up points.
You're going to give up points, but I feel like with a quarterback there, second-year returner, with the offensive line being somewhat older guys, I know you lost a great receiver, but you still have plenty of weapons on offense. I feel like Tennessee can be the type of team that wins close games. And we go back to the Arkansas schedule for a second. That BYU game ain't going to be a walk in the park.
No, it won't be a walk in the park either.
So none of those games, in the end of the day, it's the SEC. We can sit here and predict how we want. Someone's going to drop a game that they shouldn't.
Yep.
I feel like Tennessee can go and maybe win one of those games against Georgia or Bama. You said it's more likely Bama because it's a home game.
Yeah, I don't.
I can see that because you got to think Bama lost to A&M on the road, almost lost to a really bad Auburn team on the road. Now the Iron Bowl is different, but if I'm going to pick a third best team, a lot of people are saying Arkansas. I think Kentucky can be a sleeper, but I'm going Tennessee because I believe in Josh Heupel, I believe in the system, and I believe in Hendon Hooker as a quarterback.
Hey, if you like what you heard and you want to hear more, go on over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. Check out Crane & Company live every day from 2 to 3 Central, where you can hear us spit it straight.